Hello, friends. Last time I talked about tuning the mind in meditation, much like tuning a radio receiver. I did mention that I was transitioning from my yoga practice to my meditation practice, and that during yoga I was meditating on prioritizing the fundamentals. So, this vlog entry will focus on that idea. So while practicing my yoga asana, which is the physical practice of yoga, there are fundamental parts of the body that need to be aligned first and foremost. So the fundamentals take priority. So after aligning these in their proper posture, right, then everything else can be aligned in reference to these. So this is one problem I suffered through before I found yoga. Was I would be aware enough of my body to notice where my imbalances were, but I had no idea where to start with anything, because I felt like, say my left hip was tight, I would fix that, but I wouldn't know how to measure it, like progress. I wouldn't know if what I was doing was actually working. There was no, you can say, objective metric with which to measure what I was trying to fix. So with yoga came this frame of reference that I was able to then implement to measure my progress in realigning my body and rebalancing my body. So these areas are most notably the hips and the shoulders. So after aligning these areas, and we can get into a lot of detail into what aligning these areas mean, but after aligning these areas, then how does the rest of your body sit into place in reference to these? So when I align my hips properly, okay, and then I align my shoulders properly, then where is my gaze? Just naturally, where does my gaze naturally fall? So for me, my gaze naturally points down. So this is because my thoracic extensors are too weak, and so when I actually put them on the spot, they fail to give me an erect posture. Most of the time I compensate for my weak thoracic extensors, which are the back muscles that run along this area, with my neck. So I just crane my neck back and bam, I think I have good posture now, because I can see, because my vision is aligned with what I'm expecting to see. But that's just a compensation in this area here for my weak thoracic extensors, which again is on the back but run along this area here. So in mindless posture, it is easy to compensate for this weakness, and neck craning to lift your head more is one of those compensations. So again, fundamentals first in the yoga asana practice. Always align the hips and the shoulders first, and then everything else fall into place around these. It might feel really wonky, extremely weird at first. Your body might not even look normal, but as long as you're prioritizing the fundamentals, you can then begin to fix everything else, like your erector muscles. Then you can actually work on those. So the hips and the shoulders serve as anchors for fixing everything else, and it offers you this frame of reference to measure progress in your practice of rebalancing your body. So last time I mentioned that in yoga we have the concept of drishti, D-R-I-S-H-T-I, and this aids in balance. And then actually what it is a point of focus that's external to you that you can use to regain your balance. It gives you a feedback on how your body is moving. So it might be a point on the wall in front of you, a point on the floor. Anything that is not moving, you probably don't want to pick something that's moving as your drishti. That will probably throw you off more than anything. And then I related this to sort of an internal point of focus. So as an example, in my yoga practice, I was meditating on the idea of fundamentals first. So this was my mental point of focus, fundamentals first, and what that means conceptually and how this manifests in my physical practice. Okay, so in yoga, this is actually, there's many stages to the meditative state. And one of the first steps is dharana, or Dharana. And it's the initial step of a deep concentrative meditation. So the object being focused on, not necessarily the object, like my cup. Nice little segue for a sip of coffee there. But any object that you're meditating on could be purely abstract. So you hold this in your mind without your consciousness wavering from it, basically. So if you find your mind wandering away from this, then you just bring it back. Again, point of reference, right? So that's the first step. The second step is dhyana, or Dhyana. And this is different from dharana because dharana is purely static. You can think of it as just the act of trying to concentrate. So that act of concentration on a single object is dharana. Now when you start with the stream of thought, when you start processing and thinking about this object that you've chosen, right, and you're kind of in a flow, then this transitions over to dhyana, Dhyana. Okay. So interestingly, dhyana is translated as chan, if I'm saying that correctly, chan or chan in Chinese, and zen in Japanese. So dhyana and zen are very similar conceptually. If you know anything about Zen Buddhism, then that's an interesting tie back to Vedic or yoga philosophy. Okay. So after dhyana comes what? Okay, well, the yogis say samadhi. Samadhi comes next. This is the next stage of meditation. So in this stage, the ego mind dissolves, and the seer, or the meditator, or the mystic, becomes one with the object. So in dharana, the person meditating and the object upon which they are meditating is still felt as separate. Say I am meditating on, as my example earlier talked about, prioritizing the fundamentals. So I was thinking about, okay, let's hold my thoughts at prioritizing the fundamentals. So that's dharana. Dhyana is, okay, well, how does that apply to my physical practice? What does that look like when I chew on it, when I think about it? How does it apply to aligning my hips, my shoulders? What does that feel like when I meditate on that and its physical manifestation? Okay, now samadhi is the boundary between the object being meditated on and the person performing the meditation is dissolved. So it says here, the mystic's meta-awareness is not anymore conscious of meditating. Okay, so if I were to reach this stage of meditation in my yoga practice, I would no longer be consciously aware of prioritizing the fundamentals per se, but I would embody it. I would just do it and feel it. And as I move, I'm having everything fall into place around these central energy points of my body and really just becoming that concept. And now lastly, which brings me to Samyama, is all three of these tied into one. So drishti, dharana, not drishti, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, taken all together, not separate, means samyama. So samyama specifically translates to holding up, tying up, binding, integrating. Okay? So this holds everything together. It's sort of a catch-all term for all the previous phases of meditation. So again, it's the combined practice of dharana, which is concentration, dhyana, which is the concentration in motion, or your stream of consciousness on the object being meditated on, and samadhi, which involves union. Okay, so yogis believe that samyama was a tool to receive deeper knowledge of qualities of an object. And it's not a static thing. What I've noticed is samyama is really a flow state. It's dynamic. Okay. So, I think that covers the stages of meditation as covered by yoga philosophy. All right. So, just to wrap up here, I have a small paragraph